This short tutorial is for EXS 225 Advanced Exercise Testing, and the objective of this tutorial is to familiarize you with the Cosmed Quark C12X EKG program that we use for our stress testing. So we're just looking at the desktop right now, and we're going to go ahead and go over to the PC ECG 1200 icon, and we'll double click that. And the next window that you'll see is showing 3 different programs: the ECG database, the resting ECG program, and the stress ECG program. And for this tutorial, we're going to look at the menu bar for the stress ECG. So we double click that, and you'll see a number of menu icons here, and we just really want to worry about the F1 or the F11 button. And the F1 button is going to open a new study. The F11 button would open previous studies and the database for previous test subjects that we've done. So we'll click the F1, and this is now the screen that you will see. And you see that the patient data box has opened, and this is where we would input data information or the patient information. And then at the top of the screen, you'll see the different menu buttons that we'll utilize. So for the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to just enter my name and press OK. And another box is going to come up and just say that there's a patient with the same name, and is that the patient that I want? And for the sake of this, we're just going to say yes and then OK. You'll see the different lead boxes here. These are for each individual lead placement that the client will have. In this box, you'll see the rhythm strip that we most like to see, which is F5. Down in the lower left-hand side, you'll see another box, and you'll see right here a timer going, and that really has started the test. And then we'll see blood pressure, you'll see miles per hour, systolic, diastolic for the blood pressure, and then our heart rate and blood pressure trends. So this will show trends and changes, which can be very important when we're testing a subject. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit so that we can focus just on the toolbar. So that comes into focus a little bit better. And we can now see just the toolbar and the menu bar at the top. And we're going to go over the important icons that you should know about just for starting the stress EKG. And the first one that you're going to see, the top, is the F2 button. And the F2 button is for monitoring. So when a client is has leaded up and hooked up to the EKG monitor, this will take our resting measures during a particular protocol. So you might have a client who measurements are taken in supine, seated, and standing position, and also a hypervent position. So this button, since it is highlighted, is showing that that should be the process that's taking place right now with a client. The next button, just next to the F2, to the right of F2, is F3. And you can see that icon, and it shows a little blue man running. Looks like there's some sweat coming off of him. But this indicates that we're going to start the stress test, that the treadmill or other device, possibly an ergometer that's hooked up, when we press this button, it would start the treadmill moving, and the protocol that is set would start in the first stage. So that's our little man that we would press. And for the sake of being able to highlight the other buttons, you don't see me doing it, but I'm going to put in just a mock blood pressure. I have that, put that in, and now I'm going to press my F3. And a box is going to come up, so it would show what it is that you want to record. So you could record various things. Maybe if you weren't able to input a blood pressure or heart rate or rate of perceived exertion, or if a client is having some symptoms, you could put that information in the box as well. So right now, you can see F2 and F3 are no longer highlighted, and then all of a sudden F5 and F4, F7, F6, 9, and 12 have all appeared now and have been made available. So F5 button with our little blue man who's now walking is going to be our recovery button. Okay, so that starts a recovery phase during an exercise test. The F4 button, which is just to the right of F5, stops the stress test or the recovery phase. So when we press F4, we will be stopping the test. So if a client is ready to stop the test, we would press F4 and the test would go into recovery. Just to the right of F4 is going to be F6. And this button is going to set some events, and it can print according to the options when you press the button. So because this window appears very quickly, I may have to keep pressing F6 just to show you all the different things that we can do. So it stays open only for maybe 3 or 4 seconds. We'll go ahead and move forward with that. F6, our little push pin, you can see that it's in a stage already. It's showing the stage, and it's showing different types of maybe symptoms that a client could be having. It's also showing blood pressure. This is where you would put your RPE scale, the rate of perceived exertion, possibly symptoms that a client's having. So that's our F6 button. So you can press that at any time. Once that push pin it's been pushed and information has been captured in that box, the printer, it would automatically be sent to print, and that information will print out along with that stage. So then moving on to F12, so we're going to kind of skip over a little bit. And F12 stops the exercise test, and this is for the emergency. So if a client was symptomatic, was having any type of issues that would constitute stopping the test, we would press F12, and the treadmill would not stop abruptly. It would slow down and then come to a stop. So for the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to go ahead and press F4, and it's going to come up, do you want to stop the test? And we're going to press yes. And then now we're finished, the end of the test. However, what we'd like to do after a test is possibly review the results of that test, either immediately if there is an event, or after the client is has their leads removed and is going off for the rest of their evaluation for their test. The person who is in charge of the actual EKG test would go ahead and review the findings of that test or the data of that test, and we'd be able to go ahead and look through it for review. So if that's the case, we would hit the play button, and that particular test would go through stage by stage. Okay. We are able to view the various leads. So if we want to have 12 leads, 6 leads, or just 3 leads, depending on the client and depending on if we were in a clinical setting and we were using this for diagnostic purposes, we may want to change how many leads that we are monitoring at one time. So those are the major buttons, icons that you would need for starting an exercise stress test. When we get into reviewing tests results, we will have another tutorial that will explain that particular process. So I hope this helps you understand the function of some of these buttons and the appropriate time that you would use them during a test.